The cold truth about regret. Here is the brutal truth most men realize far too late. A woman will never, under any circumstances, regret losing a man who spends his days begging for her validation. When you spend your time trying to convince her to stay, pleading your case, or trying to prove how good you could be for her, you aren't fixing the relationship. You are actively burying any remaining attraction she had left. You think you're showing devotion, but to her you're displaying zero self-respect. She regrets losing you the exact second you finally wake up, realize your actual worth, and completely stop trying to prove it to her. Think about what actually happens when you hit her with long emotional texts or call her late at night wanting to work things out. You think those words will make her see your heart, but all they do is confirm that she made the right choice by leaving. Every frantic message you send acts as a giant green light telling her that she still holds total control over your emotions. It signals that no matter how she treats you, you'll be sitting right there on standby, waiting for her to choose you. That safety net completely destroys any chance of regret. Why would she miss someone who refuses to leave her alone? What actually hits a woman deep in her chest isn't a speech, a promise, or a passionate argument. It's total, absolute silence. The exact moment you stop explaining yourself, stop checking in on her social media, stop reacting to her subtle moves, and completely cut off your attention, the entire dynamic flips on its head. Suddenly, the constant supply of validation she was relying on vanishes into thin air. You take away the safety net, and for the first time since the breakup, she is forced to sit with the reality of her choice without your energy cushioning the blow. Regret is never created by what you say. It is created by your physical and emotional absence combined with your personal growth. A woman doesn't feel regret when you're standing in front of her trying to negotiate her feelings. She feels it when she wakes up weeks later and realizes she no longer has access to the man she took for granted. She realizes that the access, the care, the conversation, and the energy you used to give her freely are gone forever. And no amount of subtle hints from her side can bring it back. That realization is what creates genuine panic in her mind. This isn't about playing petty games, running toxic mind tactics, or trying to manipulate her into sending a text. It's about something much deeper and far more permanent, rebuilding your own presence so that your absence is felt naturally and heavily. When you step back and rebuild your foundation, your silence doesn't feel like a weak attempt to get attention. It feels like a strong man who has accepted the situation and moved his value elsewhere. That kind of quiet authority speaks louder than any argument you could ever bring to her doorway. So, stop focusing on what she's doing, who she's talking to, or what she's thinking. Take the spotlight off her completely and turn it directly back onto yourself. The moment your main priority shifts from desperately trying to win her back to quietly becoming a man she can never replace, the power dynamic in your life shifts entirely. You stop operating as a victim of her decision and start operating as the driver of your own life. The deepest, most painful regret a woman can ever experience is looking back months down the line and realizing she walked away from a man who leveled up, built an incredible life, and left her in the dust without ever looking back. Kill the pursuit. Let silence talk. Most men completely misunderstand what silence actually is. They think going silent means giving up, acting passive, or admitting defeat. But real, unshakable silence isn't doing nothing. It is a precise, high-level move that completely strips away her control over the situation. When you stop chasing, you aren't backing down. You are stepping into a position of total control. You are refusing to play a game where the only outcome is you burning your dignity to keep her comfortable. When a woman decides to walk away, she operates on a specific set of expectations. She fully expects a reaction from you. She expects the middle-of-the-night texts, the missed phone calls, the sad posts, and the emotional speeches asking for one more chance. Whether she admits it or not, those desperate attempts give her comfort. They validate her decision and prove that she holds all the cards. The moment you deliver absolute radio silence instead, you take that script, tear it up, and throw it in her face without saying a single word. You replace the comfort of her validation with immediate, uncomfortable uncertainty. That uncertainty is what cracks her emotional armor. When you don't react the way she thought you would, her brain immediately starts spinning out of control. She goes from being completely confident in her decision to asking herself tough questions. She starts wondering if you already moved on, if you were secretly relieved when things ended, or if she actually mattered as much to you as she thought. That mystery is 1,000 times more powerful than any speech you could give her. Your words give her answers, but your complete silence forces her into her own head, where her imagination does all the heavy lifting for you. Every single time you break and send that text saying, "I miss you," or "Can we just talk for 5 minutes?" you hand her all of your power back on a silver platter. You reassure her that she still owns your attention, which immediately kills any curiosity she was starting to build. Complete silence, on the other hand, keeps her totally in the dark. It creates a vacuum of information where she can't read you anymore. And if there's one thing that drives a person crazy after walking away from a relationship, it's no longer being able to read the mind of the person they thought they completely controlled. Silence also gives you the one thing you need more than anything else right now: space to regain your emotional composure. When you stop chasing her, you stop wasting your finite energy on a lost cause, and start pouring that energy back into your own life. You stop feeding her ego and start feeding your own strength. You clear out the mental noise of waiting for a text back and start focusing on your fitness, your career, your mindset, and your brotherhood. Silence isn't just about making her feel your absence. It's about giving yourself the room you need to stand back up, dust yourself off, and execute your comeback like a man of real value. Rebuild in the dark. The single biggest mistake men make after a relationship ends is performing their bounce back for an audience. They hit the gym for 3 days, take a shirtless selfie, post a picture surrounded by people with a forced smile, or share passive-aggressive motivational quotes about moving on to bigger and better things. You think you're showing her what she's missing, but in reality, every single one of those posts screams the exact same desperate message. "Look at me. Please notice how well I'm doing without you." It is transparent. It looks insecure, and it completely ruins your leverage. If the work you are putting in is done for her to see, you have already lost the game before it even starts. Real, unshakable confidence requires 0 audience and 0 applause. A man who truly respects himself doesn't need to post a status update to prove he's putting in work. He doesn't need a single like, comment, or view from an ex to validate his progress. The man who actually changes his trajectory does it completely in the dark, far away from social media, public attention, or high school drama. He goes dark, shuts his mouth, and lets his results quietly pile up behind closed doors. Curiosity is one of the most powerful psychological drivers of attraction and obsession. If she can open her phone, look at your story, and instantly figure out where you are, who you're with, and how you're coping, she remains completely comfortable. She feels 0 urgency and 0 loss because she still has total access to your world. But the second you stop broadcasting your life and vanish into thin air, her imagination takes over. When she has no idea what you're doing, who you're spending time with, or where your ambition is taking you, her mind is forced to fill in the blanks, and her mind will always create stories far more intense than anything you could post. Rebuilding in the dark isn't a fake stunt to get her attention. It's a total overhaul of your actual life. Fix your posture and stand with authority. Elevate your wardrobe so you look like a man who takes himself seriously. Lock in on your career, your business, and your bank account with absolute discipline. Put your head down in the gym and build a physique that demands respect. Do none of this for a quick post, a story view, or a subtle flex to get her to text you. Do it exclusively for the man you see in the mirror every single morning. Move completely in silence until your real-world presence and your real-world results speak so loudly that you never have to say a single word. Emotional detachment. Winning without games. Fake moving on is embarrassingly easy to spot, and women can sense it from a mile away. Women are deeply tuned into emotional energy, and they instinctively know when your actions still orbit around them. You might think you're being clever by staging fake jealousy, hanging out with new women just to post them, or pretending to be cold and unbothered when you bump into her, but it never works. Staging your life to get a reaction out of an ex isn't a display of power. It is just desperate emotional dependency wrapped in a different outfit. It proves she still controls your mind, your schedule, and your choices. Real power isn't about playing petty mind games, trying to act toxic, or trying to punish her for walking away. Real power is genuine emotional detachment. Emotional detachment means you reach a point where her choices, her posts, her opinions, and her absence no longer have the power to ruin your day or dictate your state of mind. You don't react to her breadcrumbs. You don't explain your decisions to anyone, and you never, under any circumstances, chase someone who chose to step out of your life. You step entirely off the emotional roller coaster and step onto your own path. When she looks over from a distance, whether through mutual friends, public sight, or the rumor mill, and sees a man who is calm, deeply focused, and completely centered in his own mission, it fundamentally disrupts her ego. She expected you to be broken. She expected you to be drinking yourself to sleep, spiraling out of control, or waiting by the phone hoping for her name to pop up on your screen. Instead, she finds a man who didn't fall apart without her. She finds a man who didn't need her validation, her comfort, or her presence to thrive and build a solid life. That calm, unshakable masculine energy is impossible to ignore because it cannot be faked. When a man is truly at peace with himself and focused on his future, his whole frequency changes. He talks differently, he walks differently, and he reacts to chaos with total composure. You aren't being cold or bitter out of spite. You are simply entirely focused on where you are going. And when a woman realizes she lost a man who is grounded, self-sufficient, and entirely unbothered by her absence, that is the exact moment the weight of what she threw away finally hits her. Level up like you were never touched. Heartbreak is pure, explosive emotional fuel, but 90% of men burn it completely wrong. When a woman walks away, most men collapse inward. They sit in dark rooms, stare at their phones, replay old conversations line by line, and torture themselves trying to pinpoint the exact second things went wrong. They allow themselves to stay trapped in her narrative, acting like collateral damage in someone else's story. They take that intense emotional energy and burn it on depression, self-pity, and alcohol. But the top 10% of men realize a fundamental truth. Heartbreak is the single greatest catalyst for transformation a man will ever receive in his entire life, if he has the discipline to harness it correctly. The ultimate comeback is never about pretending you're fine or putting on a brave face for the world. It is about taking that chaotic, painful energy in your chest and channeling it straight into real-world execution until you actually become unstoppable. When you can't sleep at 5 in the morning because your mind is racing, don't lie in bed staring at the ceiling. Get up and attack the weights. When you feel that surge of frustration or rejection, put it directly into your craft. Sharpen your skills, double your work output, increase your income, and lock in on your highest ambitions with terrifying focus. Turn your pain into muscle, money, discipline, and absolute mastery over your day-to-day life. The biggest mistake men make during this phase is overcompensating and trying to broadcast every step of their progress to the world. They want to show off their new physique, post their new car, or throw their lifestyle in her face. But loud, performative progress isn't real strength. It's just insecurity shouting for attention. Real, life-altering transformation moves quietly, smoothly, and with clear, lethal intent. You don't need to announce your level up, because real results leave a trail. When you put your head down and build in silence, the changes in your physical appearance, your financial standing, and your overall presence become self-evident. When the dust finally settles, and she looks back at you down the road, she won't see a broken man who spent months wallowing in sadness. She will see a man who was calm, deeply peaceful, aggressively driven, and completely unbothered by anything in the past. That visual hits a woman with a terrifying realization. She realized she wasn't the anchor keeping your life together, nor was she the prize holding you up. She realizes you never needed her strength to build your foundation. You just needed space to build an empire without distraction. And that is when she realizes what she truly walked away from: the weapon of absolute indifference. Most men fundamentally misunderstand what indifference actually means. They hear the word and immediately assume it means acting cruel, throwing cold insults, being petty, or showing visible bitterness. But acting cold or angry isn't indifference. It's just wounded pride wearing a mask. Anger still proves that she holds massive power over your emotional state. If she can say something to make you mad, she still controls you. Real, lethal indifference is something much deeper. It is the calm, unshakable refusal to let her existence, her words, or her emotional drama affect your personal reality in any way, shape, or form. It is choosing your self-respect and peace over her validation every single day. Breakups always follow a very specific, predictable script in a woman's mind. She steps away fully expecting emotional reactions, texts demanding answers, angry arguments, or desperate attempts to make her jealous. Those dramatic reactions confirm her importance and validate her decision, assuring her that she still holds the remote control to your emotions. Absolute indifference completely shreds that script and tosses it in the trash. Genuine indifference doesn't scream, "I hate you," or "Look at what you did to me." It quietly and powerfully demonstrates, "I value my life, my time, and my purpose far too much to waste a single second trying to convince you of my worth." The moment you completely pull your attention, your energy, and your presence away from a woman, you force her to confront a cold reality. So much of the confidence, value, and emotional high she felt while being around you wasn't actually generated by her. It was supplied entirely by your energy, your attention, and your validation. When you shut off that supply cold turkey, the illusion breaks. You don't throw passive-aggressive jabs on social media. You don't post dark stories. And you never fabricate fake drama to get a rise out of her. You simply do not participate in the circus anymore. You execute your daily routine with total composure. You hit your goals, stay focused on your mission, protect your peace, and refuse to engage in chaotic emotional cycles. If she reaches out with drama, you don't engage. If she tries to test your boundaries, you remain completely unbothered and firm. When you reach a point where her presence or her absence triggers the exact same steady, grounded response from you, you have won the ultimate battle. You have reclaimed your power, taken full ownership of your masculine energy, and locked in a level of peace that no outside situation can ever disrupt again. When she reaches out, do not swallow the bait. If you execute everything correctly, if you lock in on your self-improvement, rebuild your life, and maintain absolute, unshakable silence, curiosity will almost always pull her back into your orbit. It rarely happens with a massive, dramatic confession of love. Instead, it starts subtly. A random, "Hey, how have you been?" text late at night. An accidental story view, a like on an old photo, or a casual message dropping a fake reason just to reach out. That ping on your phone is the exact moment the emotional tide begins to turn. But it is also the absolute most dangerous moment for any man trying to regain his power. This single moment is where 90% of men completely crumble and ruin months of hard work in a matter of seconds. They make the critical mistake of mistaking her sudden curiosity for actual commitment. They assume that because she texted, she must miss them, regret her decision, and want to fix things. But more often than not, she isn't reaching out because she wants you back. She is reaching out to perform a simple ping test on your emotions. She wants to see if you're still sitting on the shelf waiting for her, and if she still holds that same invisible power over your mind. If the moment her name pops up on your screen, you reply within 2 seconds with high energy, long paragraphs, and eager enthusiasm, you give her the exact answer she was looking for. You instantly kill all the mystery, curiosity, and tension you built during your absence. She gets an immediate hit of validation, realizes she can still have you anytime she wants, and her desire vanishes instantly. Just like that, the entire power dynamic shifts right back into her hands, and you are left sitting back at square one, wondering what went wrong. You must refuse to swallow the bait. When that message comes in, do not rush to respond. Do not get excited and do not panic. Let the message sit there. Wait hours or even a full day before you even consider opening it. That delay sends a massive, undeniable message through the phone line without you having to spell it out. Your life is busy, your attention is valuable, and you are no longer sitting around waiting on her signal. Your delay forces her to sit in her own uncomfortable thoughts, wondering why you aren't jumping at the chance to talk to her anymore. When you finally decide to send a response, keep it exceptionally short, polite, and completely neutral. Never bring up the past, never ask probing questions about what she's been up to, and never drop passive-aggressive hints about how much better you're doing. Act like a composed, respectful gentleman who is simply focused on his day. Show her, through your utter lack of emotional reaction, that you have completely outgrown the need for her validation. You aren't being mean, cold, or vindictive. You're simply operating from a grounded state of mind where her presence no longer determines your emotional temperature. Become impossible to replace. When a woman eventually orbits back into your world, she fully expects to find the exact same man she walked away from. She expects the same emotional triggers, the same insecurities, the same habits, and the same desperate desire for her approval. If she tests the waters and realizes that under the surface you are still that same old version of yourself, the illusion vanishes. She will slide right back into her old habits, take your attention for granted once again, and walk right back out the exact same door she came through. You cannot build a new high-value dynamic using the exact same version of yourself that lost the last one. The only way to win permanently is by evolving into a man who is genuinely impossible to replace. You become impossible to replace by developing a locked-in life purpose, maintaining unshakable boundary control, and stepping permanently into a grounded masculine frame. That means you become a man who knows his value, protects his peace at all costs, and refuses to let any person, no matter how attractive, or disrupt his mission or disrespect his time. When she looks at you now, she will be hit with a massive wave of cognitive dissonance. She remembers the man she left, but she is suddenly forced to confront the powerful, centered man standing right in front of her. The old tricks she used to pull no longer work. She can no longer predict your reactions. She can no longer pull your emotional strings. And she certainly can't manipulate your mood with small breadcrumbs of affection. Your quiet composure and lack of neediness completely strip away her leverage and put you right back in the driver's seat. This complete transformation reverses the roles entirely. You aren't standing there with open arms asking for a second chance or hoping she picks you again. You are living a life so focused, structured, and fulfilling that the dynamic has fundamentally shifted. She quickly realizes that you aren't trying to earn a spot in her world anymore. She has to step up, respect your boundaries, and actively prove that she belongs in yours. Because the ultimate victory isn't getting an ex back. It's becoming a man so capable, grounded, and valuable that he never has to chase anyone ever again.